Hi friends, today we are going to discuss a very important function in Excel called VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is a function used to search for a value into a matrix of values or into a range of values where you try to find out a particular value from a field corresponding to the value that you are looking for. Okay, so let's start. Let's say you have this set of data where you have customer ID and you have the information whether these customers ordered your product online or offline. Okay. Now, for these customers, you have the details of these customers. For example, the names of these customers, as well as the country and maybe some other details. In another set of data, which is shown in sheet 1. Okay, so here you can see you have a set of customer IDs, customer name, gender, country, and maybe there might be some other attributes as well. So you can call this as your master data where you are going to do a lookup into, and from where you are going to do the lookup is sheet 2, where you want to fetch the values of customer name and country from sheet 1 for these specific customers. Okay, so the function is very simple. If you type in is equal to the lookup and then you start the parenthesis, lookup value. So you are trying to look up for this particular customer ID here. Okay, and we'll then once you have the formula done and giving us the value, then we'll copy paste it to other cells. Okay, so right now we are only worried about looking up for the customer ID, which is in cell A2 in which range. Okay, so here you can select either this fixed range, or you can also actually select the whole range here, whole range of columns here. Okay, so we have selected column A to D. So this is the data where we are going to look into, and what we are going to look from is we already specified from sheet to A2 cell. Okay, now what we are going to fetch from this, so from this matrix of data. So we want the customer name, right? Now, customer name is second column with respect to this range of values that we selected. So we selected column A to D here, from where we want to fetch search and fetch the values for the sheet to A2 cell. So here you can see column B is number 2 column with respect to the customer ID column, which is column A. Okay, because we need to give the relative index number here, or relative position of the field that we want to fetch from this range of values. Okay, so we want to fetch the customer name in this case, hence it is column indexes will be 2, and then you have true and false, 1 for true, 0 for false. Now here we are going to do an exact match. So exact match is false, while true is used for approximate match. Now exact match means basically that we are going to look for the exactly the same customer ID from sheet 2 into sheet 1, and hence we are going to use exact match. There might be some use cases where you want to do approximate match, which we'll cover in probably another video. But in this case, we are going to fetch the exact same customer ID and the details corresponding to that, right? So that's how we are going to look for the exact match. Hence, we say here 0, and then we close the parentheses, just press enter. Okay, now you can see we got Atif here. So once again, let's revise it, how we do it quickly. Is equal to VLOOKUP, because in sheet 2, we want to get the customer name for these particular customer IDs from sheet 1. Okay, so we are going to look for, in this particular cell, we are going to look for the customer ID, which is 28935. Where we are going to look into, we are going to look into sheet 1, column A to D. So I place my mouse in sheet 1 and then selected this range. Then I go on the top of this formula bar. Okay, and I simply select which column you want to fetch in this case. So we want to fetch the customer name, which is second position relative to column A to D range. Okay, and then we select the exact match, which is 0, and press enter, and you automatically and the control automatically goes into sheet 2. Okay, so let's just once again, the last time, let's repeat it, is equal to VLOOKUP 28935, comma, where we are going to look up. So we need to go to sheet 1, select A to D, go on the top formula bar, select the second column 0, complete the formula, press enter. Here itself, the control automatically takes you back to sheet 2. It is a bit confusing. That's why I showed 3 times this whole process, because you might mess up with the sheet name. And if you try to do the formula by going back to sheet 2, completing the remaining of the formula by going back to sheet 2, then that doesn't work, because then it hampers the whole formula that you see on the top here. So once you have selected, you have done is equal to VLOOKUP A2, comma, and then you have to go to sheet 1 to select this range, and then you go on the formula bar on the top, complete the formula there by typing the other 2 arguments, the last 2 arguments, which is 2, 0, and then you get the detail here. Now, if you simply double click at the bottom right, or you drag the formula, then it copy pastes the formula here, and you can see here that you get either #NA or the actual name of the customer if it matches. So we can verify this detail from the sheet 1. 28935 is 28935 is Atif. So we got Atif here. 19034, there is no 19034 in this customer ID range. Hence we got #NA. 93245, 93245 John. Okay, so sequencing of the values is in either range, in sheet 1's range, is not important at all. It will look into the full range of values because we selected column A to D here. You could also select, if you see here, the actual range that we are looking into is this range, which is A1 to D10. So we can actually select, rather than selecting A to D full columns, we can also select A1 to D10. But there is a drawback associated with it, which you can also rectify. So let's talk about that. If you select A1 to D10 of sheet 1, remaining of the formula remains the same. So you get Ate, which is fine. But then now if you check the formula here, you can see here that this value became #NA. And the reason for that is because when you copy paste the formula in Excel anywhere, then the row number of each of the attributes where you have the row number, obviously. So you can see here, for example, A2, sheet 1, A1 to D10. Here it's A3. So the formula, when you do a copy paste in Excel, the formula automatically applies to that particular row. So A2 becomes A3, while the problem here is now the range where you are looking into automatically becomes A2 to D11 rather than A1 to D10, which is the standard mechanism how a formula in Excel works. Now you don't want to look into A2 to D11. The reason, or maybe just so A2 to D11 might be still okay, but if you see here, A3, A2 to D11. Now here you see A3 to D12. Now if you go here and you select A3 to D12, which is this range, then you are actually not looking into the first row at all. And similarly, if you go here where the problem is actually, you can see that the range that is selected on the top is A1 to D16. So if you go here and you see A7 to D16, so let's go here back and then see A7 to D16. So it's trying to look here while Nisha is actually there in row number 5. So how will it find it? It will not be able to find it. So hence, always remember that if you are not selecting the full range like this by selecting the whole column, then, and if you are actually selecting only that specific range where you have the values, then if you do a copy paste of that formula across all the customer IDs here, across all the rows where you want the data to be fetched into, then it's a problem because it automatically increments the row numbers of the range as well, right? So you have to fix it. Now, there are two ways to fix it. One is obviously, rather than selecting A1 to D10, A2 to D11, A3 to D12, and so on, you can just select column A colon D, which is selecting the whole column range. But then you can also fix it by actually selecting this thing here and pressing F4 function key. Okay. If you press F4 function key, then it automatically appends $sign in front of A, 1, D, and 10. And it $sign basically means that it fixes this range now. So now if you copy paste this formula, and let's say you copy paste here, now you can see here that you get the value here very easily. Reason being, you can see in each of the rows, only the first attribute of this formula, which is A1, A2, A3, A4, it is changing as per the row number of that particular cell. But then the range that you fixed in sheet 1, which is A1 to D10, by appending the $sign by pressing F4 key. So select A to D, sheet 1, A to D, and then press F4 function key on your keyboard, then it automatically fixes that range. So now if you do a copy paste of the formula, it doesn't matter because then your range is always A1 to D10. Okay. So, but on the safe side, I normally prefer to do it simply by selecting the whole column itself, because it anyway doesn't harm, right? Okay, so this is the safer and quicker option, which gives you the correct values. Okay, now you want country, so we can say is equal to VLOOKUP of what? Again, this customer ID, which is A2, comma, where, so we go back to sheet 1 again. So remember to go back to sheet 1, select the whole range, and now don't go back to sheet 2. Same thing that we did last time. Don't go back to sheet 2, complete the formula here itself. Okay, comma. Now you want country rather than the customer name. The country is the fourth column with respect to the range that we have selected, right? So we have selected A to D. Now, if you see A, B, C, D, D is the fourth column relative to A, yeah? So that's why we will say 4 here, which is the relative index number of that column, comma, again, the exact match, UAE, okay? And you can do a copy paste, drag and drop, or just double click on the bottom right of this cell, and it automatically pastes the formula everywhere. Okay, let's do a quick sense check here. 28935 Atif UAE, 28935 Atif UAE. So you got UAE, which is fine. And hash NA is because 19034 is not present there. Similarly, let's check for Olivia 45830. 45830 Olivia, country is Canada, and you got Canada here. Okay, so this is all about VLOOKUP. You can look up for any value in any range. Even these two sheets can actually be combined into one. So for example, you might have the customer IDs here. Okay, it might be a big list, it might be small list, doesn't matter. The sequencing of this column also doesn't matter. What matters is you are putting the formula correctly. So even if you have values here, customer ID here, then you can simply do VLOOKUP here. So you can just say VLOOKUP of whatever value you want to look up. And then here you can just select this whole range like this and so on. Okay. So here there's no problem of selecting different sheets and so on. While in this particular case, when you had put in the formula, you have said is equal to VLOOKUP of A2, comma. Now this is important. Go to sheet 1, select the whole range. Now don't go back to sheet 2. Simply complete the formula here. As I said, you want to fetch the name, which is column 2, relative to the range that you have selected. So ABCD is the range. You could also select A to B because anyway we are fetching the B column. So we need not to select A to D. but it's okay. We can select A to D because that's what we are going to do on the for other fields, especially for country. For gender, you can just select A to C, and for customer name, you can just select A to B. But it doesn't harm anyway to select the whole range, even though we are not going to look up into the column C and D at all, because we are saying here, say, look only for the second column, which is customer name, okay, comma 0. Now, just remember that obviously, but obvious thing is that you don't need to select. I mean, you should not put a index number which is say 5 while your range is just column A to D. So you only have 4 columns in your range, and if you obviously put 5, then you will not get the correct value and you will get a hash ref, which is the error here. Okay, so you just need to put the correct formula and then you'll get the correct output. Okay, so that's all for today. Hope this video helps you in your learning and in your day-to-day working. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.